Philadelphia is famously called the city of brotherly love, a place built on ideals of unity and community. But beneath the nickname, the streets of Philly have seen their share of betrayal and bloodshed. In this city, love and loyalty don't always mean safety. Sometimes, the very people closest to you can be the ones plotting your downfall. In some of Philadelphia's darkest cases, it's women, girlfriends, wives, even teenage girls who played the role of bait, luring men into traps that cost them their lives. In today's video, we'll be looking at 3 stories from Philadelphia where women set up men to be killed. Each case shows how quickly trust can turn into a weapon and how brotherly love can sometimes mask the deadliest kinds of betrayal. But before we get into the video, please be sure to like and subscribe. The first case is about a girl named Jamie Barnes from Philadelphia that was just 17 years old at the time of her alleged crime. She is accused of accidentally killing her own friend while trying to backdoor another man with him. On the evening of August 28, 2022, Jamie was hanging out in a group with 4 other teens and young adults, including 25-year-old Dakari Rome, another teenage girl, a 17-year-old male nicknamed Little Smoke, and another teenager named Kasim Williams. They were riding around in a car from place to place together, messing around and shooting people with Orbeez guns. The car belonged to Dakari, and Jamie was the one driving. The group eventually stopped at a 7-Eleven, then later parked in a lot on Grant Street near Union Alley. It was there that they set their plan in motion. Kasim had exchanged text messages with Dakari about robbing Little Smoke of his gun. Dakari texted Kasim saying things like, "We can get it tonight," and "He think we cool, he gonna let you hold it." Kasim responded with instructions telling Dakari to just play it cool, don't make him nervous. The plan was simple: hang out like friends, then convince Little Smoke to hand over the gun and turn it on him. They were able to successfully convince Little Smoke to hand the gun over to Dakari. That's where things spiraled out of control. Dakari handed the gun to Kasim, who then handed the gun to Jamie. Instead of just holding it, she started filming herself waving the gun around. She then proceeded to point the gun at Little Smoke and asked him what else he had on him. When he saw the barrel pointed at him, Little Smoke instinctively raised his hand. That's when Jamie fired the gun. The bullet tore right through Little Smoke's hand and accidentally shot directly into Dakari's chest. Dakari collapsed in the passenger seat. Once Little Smoke processed what happened, he ran out of the car. Jamie handed the gun to Kasim, who fired multiple shots in Little Smoke's direction, but luckily none of them hit him. The group then drove Dakari to the hospital where he was pronounced dead. Police quickly connected the dots. They recovered the text messages that showed the plan to rob Little Smoke of his gun. Witnesses confirmed Jamie had been the one holding and firing the weapon. She was placed on the most wanted list the very next day and was arrested in Philadelphia less than 2 months later. She was charged with first-degree murder, second-degree murder, third-degree murder, aggravated assault, robbery, conspiracy, possessing an instrument of crime, and multiple firearm charges. Kasim was charged with third-degree murder, attempted murder, aggravated assault, conspiracy, and possessing an instrument of crime. In 2023, he pled guilty to third-degree murder and attempted murder and was sentenced to 12 to 24 years in state prison. Jamie, facing trial, eventually took a plea deal too. She pled guilty to third-degree murder and aggravated assault. In 2024, a judge sentenced her to 10 to 25 years in prison. The next case is about a woman named Catherine Emmel, who was 29 years old at the time of her crime. She was living in a small town called Plymouth Meeting, which is about a 30-minute drive from Philadelphia. She had recently ended her relationship with a 35-year-old man named William Carter, but they decided to keep living in the same house together. What looked like an uneasy living arrangement would lead to something much darker. Catherine claimed that William had stopped paying his share of rent and other bills, leading to tension to rise between them. Things got even worse when William won $3,000 sports betting. Catherine was jealous that William did not share any of the money with her. It was at that point that she decided that he needed to be robbed. Prosecutors say Catherine began bringing up William's recent gambling wins to people, telling others he had money worth taking. It was then that she set her plan in motion. She placed a GPS tracker into the car that William drove, then reached out to her drug dealer, a 29-year-old man named Daquan Allen. Texts and testimony later showed that Catherine called Daquan the night of the murder, giving him William's exact location and telling him how long he'd be there. Daquan didn't act alone. He put together a small crew. He recruited 17-year-old Damon Brantley Jr., 17-year-old Justin Davis, and 28-year-old Jerry Butler to join him on this mission and carry out the robbery while he served as the getaway driver. On January 20th, 2024, the crew moved in. William went out to his car a little before 8 p.m. near Westwood and Powell Streets in Norristown when he was ambushed. 3 men exited a gray Toyota RAV4 and approached him, while a 4th man stayed behind in the driver's seat. One of the suspects pushed him against a wall, and then after the robbery was done, one of them fatally shot William before all 3 ran back to their vehicle and sped off. Once they got away, they divvied up the money, less than $1,000 each. They attempted to cover up their tracks by burning the getaway vehicle, but there was too much evidence left behind. Surveillance cameras later caught Catherine meeting up with Daquan in Philadelphia, where he handed her $700, her cut of the setup. Cell phone records and the GPS device sealed the case. Police tracked down Daquan, Jerry, and Damon in upstate New York and brought them back to Montgomery County to face trial. Catherine turned herself in on February 7, 2024. At trial, Justin testified that Catherine had been the inside link. He told the jury about her call to Daquan, her role in pointing them toward William, and the plan for Damon to obtain a stolen car so it couldn't be traced. The jury's verdicts reflected each man's role. Damon was the one that fired the gun and killed William, so he was convicted of first-degree murder. Daquan and Jerry were convicted of second-degree murder, conspiracy, and robbery. Because Damon was only 17 at the time of the killing, his sentence is a mandatory 35 years to life. Daquan and Jerry are each facing life sentences without parole. Justin's plea deal and testimony allowed him to avoid a life sentence and get tried as a juvenile. He got a lenient sentence of just 4 years in juvenile prison as a part of his deal. As for Catherine, she chose to cooperate as well. In June of 2024, she pled guilty to third-degree murder and robbery. This led to her getting a relatively light sentence for the heinous nature of her actions. In October of 2024, she was sentenced to 6 to 15 years in state prison. The final case is about a woman named Danielle Baxter, who was 39 years old at the time of her alleged crime. Danielle and her husband, a 30-year-old man named Jordan Baxter, lived in the Roxborough/Andorra section of Northwest Philadelphia. Jordan had worked for 14 years as a regional rail engineer for SEPTA. Together, they had 3 children. According to their neighbors, the family was outwardly friendly and cared for by those who knew them. But deep down, something much darker was going on. In the days leading up to the tragedy, Danielle posted something on social media that would later draw attention. On March 14, 2025, she posted, "These females out here be plotting on your marriage and waiting for your downfall so they can come right on in, and these men let them." Just 5 days after posting that message, Danielle would allegedly do the unspeakable to her husband. On March 19, 2025, early in the morning, neighbors heard screaming at the home on the 800 block of Bells Mill Road. Police responded around 7 a.m. They discovered Jordan in the driveway between 2 parked cars, lying on a plastic sheet. He was unresponsive, a gun found resting on his chest, and he was pronounced dead on the scene. Investigators quickly found evidence suggesting the shooting did not happen outside. Jordan had been shot inside a bedroom in the home, and then his body was dragged outside. Inside the house, blood was found, including blood on a mattress. The gun found on his chest was not believed to be the weapon that fired the fatal shot. Danielle Baxter was arrested the next day and charged with murder, possession of an instrument of crime with intent, abuse of a corpse, and tampering/fabricating physical evidence. Her bail was denied, and she was held in the Philadelphia Industrial Correctional Center. At the time of these reports, authorities have not made public a definitive motive. What is known from the initial investigation is that Jordan and Danielle had become estranged from each other, and he was no longer living in the same house as her. If convicted of her charges, Danielle could end up spending the rest of her life in prison. Be mindful of the company you keep. Make sure to always have your guard up and not to be too trusting. RIP to everyone that passed away in this video. Let me know what you guys think about these situations in the comment section, and please be sure to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching.